Me again, obviously. I'm just going to apologise because the application I'm using to record this PowerPoint unfortunately cuts you off after 15 minutes. Not that the last one was 15 minutes, however, I made a mistake. So that one's going to be quite short. However, I will try and make this one up to 15 minutes. I'm hoping there'll be no more than 3 videos. However, we'll see how we get on. But yeah, here we go again. So I hope you managed to do that last task okay. And maybe you found some interesting information, or something maybe you didn't know was around, maybe a job role that you weren't aware of. Yeah, and I hope it was useful for you. So moving on then, this kind of ties into what you were just doing. So there are 4 sectors within health and social care, well, 4 main sectors anyway, that you can work in. So there are children's services, so that is areas such as nurseries, schools. There's obviously also social work with children, that kind of thing. That also ties in though, so there is a lot of crossover with these sectors. So don't try not to get too overwhelmed or stuck, like bogged down with these, because they do kind of overlap. So as it then says, young people services. This is mostly relating, I believe, anyway, in my personal opinion, in this day and age, to mental health. Excuse me. So, mental health services for young people. By young people, we mean more kind of heading towards the teenage age range rather than young children. So, like it says there, such as social work and child protection. I know child protection is for children as well, but would just try to kind of separate the two, as when you're working in those fields, as you can imagine, working in a nursery is a lot different than working in child protection. So that's how we try to separate them. There are obviously adult social care services. So again, that's mental health, but onto the adult side of things. And then we have healthcare, which is for everybody. So doctors, hospitals, dentists, anything like that. So your general healthcare that is for children and adults alike. So I've got another little task for you. So you don't have to necessarily write this down if you don't want to, but it might be beneficial too. So in Sheffield, if you're from Sheffield or if you're from a bit further, do your area. Or if you're not originally from Sheffield and you're from somewhere else, you can do that as well. What examples of services can you think of that fit into the 4 sectors, like I just said? So can you think of maybe 2? That'd be good. Or just 1, that's fine. That fit into each of the 4 sectors. So an example of a children's service, an example of a young people service, an example of adult social service, and an example of healthcare. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that if you want to pause the video. So I'm hoping you've managed to think of some examples. Don't worry if you haven't. So, to give you an example, some of the services where I live, in the kind of local area, so up the road, there's a primary school, and there is also a dentist up the road and a nursery. Also, down the road, if I want to be specific, there is a care home. It is a private care home, though, not a public one. And there is a GP surgery as well. They were the first things that came to my mind when I thought about what was in my local area. So I'm imagining you've probably come up with similar things, or there might be some more services around where you live. But yes, I hope you managed to do that task. So I want you to choose, it says choose 4 services. I don't want you to choose 4, just choose 1, otherwise you'll be here all day. So I want you to choose a service from one of the services that you've written down from your local area. And I want you to find out what the provision's purpose is. So I want you to try and be specific here, because this will help when you're researching it. So for example, let's say you want to research your local GP. So I want you to tell me what your doctor's is called, your GP surgery is called. I want you to tell me what their purpose is. So why do we have GP surgeries? What do they offer, as in the different services that they offer? So for example, obviously a doctor's well, everyone knows what a doctor's surgery offer. However, there are different people that work in a doctor's surgery. For example, there's your GP, but there might also be um, a nurse that works there or a health visitor. So kind of be a bit specific if you can to tell me what all the different things that they offer and who would access that service as well. So who would go to the GP surgery? Okay, so I'll give you a bit of time to do that. If you could pause the video now. So I'm hoping you all managed to do that. You may have even found that there's some roles within the service that you researched that you might not have thought of before, or you might not have realised were there, or the services that they offered that you didn't realise. So I hope that was an interesting activity for you. But bear in mind, all the activities that you're kind of doing throughout this PowerPoint will help you with your assignment, which will be sent later today. So they are of use, these activities. I'm not just making you do it for no reason. So we're now going to move on to, like I said earlier, about the difference between skills and knowledge. Now, I feel that these words are often used interchangeably. I think often people think skills and knowledge come as like a heading, and skills and knowledge are the same thing, but they are not. So you don't have to write this down, but I just want you to have a quick think of what you think the difference is between skills and knowledge. So if you could please pause the video here again. And like I say, if you want to write it down, you can, or just have a quick think of what the difference between skills and knowledge is. Okay, so I hope you've had time now to have a think about those. And now I'll let you know what the difference are and see if you were right. So, skills are the expertise or talent needed in order to do a job or task. Job skills allow you to do a particular job, and life skills help you through everyday tasks. So basically, skills is kind of the stuff that you're good at. So you often say that you have good communication skills, you're have a good organisational skills, you have good time management skills, that kind of thing. So it's things that you are good at doing that may be related to a specific job role. So knowledge is an understanding of someone or something, such as facts, information, and descriptions. Knowledge is acquired through experience and education. So basically, knowledge is stuff that you know. So it's if you've got your GCSEs, I suppose, is one. You might do some training on the job. You might have heard of something called continuous professional development. Don't worry if you haven't, but that's where you continuously develop yourself as a professional, clues in the name. So you might do kind of training on the job, or even in your own time, maybe do some reading around your job role or things that are in the news. That can all count as continuous professional development. And of course, you've also got things like the course that you guys are doing right now. And then moving on to things like full level 3 BTECs, NVQs, cash qualifications, and then moving forward onto university degrees and things like that. So your knowledge is like your education, really, more than anything, and your skills are the things that you're good at. So now, I've only told you to get a bit of piece of paper. You're going to need quite a bit of paper now, depending how big you write. Sorry. So I feel like a lot of people are very good about writing about themselves. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words. So often, like I've often come across a job application and it'll tell us about yourself. What are you good at? What are your skills? And I go, oh gosh. Well, I suppose I'm good at this, but I'm not very good at doing it. That's just me personally. So what I want you to do is I want you to have a think about your skills and what you're good at. So if you want to, you can separate it out into the area of your life. Things like what skills do you have for college? What skills do you have in a workplace? And what skills do you have at home? There is no wrong answer here. It's like even if you think, well, I can wash the pots at home, that is a skill at the end of the day. So yeah, you can incorporate anything into this. And what I want you to do is I want you to create a mind map. If you're unsure what that is, I basically just want you to write skills in the middle of a piece of paper and draw a circle around it. And then I want you to draw kind of lines coming off the middle of that circle and write a skill off each line for me. If you don't want to do that, you can do it just as a list. But I think mind maps are sometimes a bit better as a visual to look at when you're doing them. But it's completely up to you. So if you want to pause the video here, and you can have a bit of time to do that. Right, so I hope you've managed to do that and thought of some excellent skills. So before we move on to that, I'm just going to give you a few examples. Well, I kind of already did. So we've got things like communication skills, time management skills. In college, it might be assignment writing skills. It might be, I suppose, time management comes into that as well, as being able to manage your time when it comes to assignment work. IT skills, perhaps, or maybe if you're not too IT savvy, you might not want to put that, but that could be one you put in. That kind of thing kind of goes into college. Similar ones go into work, but it might be things like teamwork skills. You know, happy to work as a team, but you can also work independently. They're skills that you have gained through maybe other work experience or through your life. And then maybe at home, like I said, maybe this might seem silly, but just things like maybe childcare is I suppose childcare isn't a skill as such, but you know, looking after others is a skill that you've learnt to do if you have got your own children, or maybe you've got an elderly relative that you've looked after before, or just a relative or friend in general. That is a skill that you've developed. Could talk about maybe food, kind of nutrition, that kind of thing. If you've got someone in your family that you need to keep on a nutritious diet. So there's all sorts. I'm sure you came up with much better examples than I just did, but yes, I'm hoping you managed to think of a good handful of skills that you have acquired over your lifetime. So now moving on, I want you to do the knowledge that you have got. So if you want to do another mind map for me or another list, however you've done it, and I want you to think about what you have learned. So what knowledge do you have? Now, I know you might not all have kind of your GCSEs and things, but you can kind of think outside the box a bit with this one. So it might be that you have a relative who's got MS, for example. And because that relative has MS, you have done a lot of reading about it and you feel like you know a lot about MS because of that. That is knowledge that you have got. So it doesn't have to be, oh, well, I've done my GCSEs or what have you. You can think outside the box a little bit. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that if you want to pause the video here. Right, so again, I'll give you a few examples. So, well, I kind of already have done. But of course, there's the obvious ones, such as the GCSEs that you've done, if you went to college or if you did A-levels or O-levels or whatever they were called when you did them. If you have been to university, if you have done some form of degree, you can put that down. Even if it's not relevant to the health and social care sector or the job that you're applying for, you still obviously put down all the education that you've got. So, because any knowledge can be transferable, really. So yes, I'm hoping you came up I hope you came up with some out of the box like ideas as well for knowledge, kind of like the example I gave about MS. So yeah, hope you've got lots of knowledge on your mind map as well. So now you know what skills and knowledge that you have on your mind maps, and now I want you to think about the skills that a professional needs in the health and social care sector. So I want you to do another mind map. You're going to be sick of mind maps by the time you're done with this. But I want you to create another mind map with the skills that you think a health and social care professional needs. So remember, we're talking about skills here, not knowledge. So skills are the things that you are good at. So it might be things like empathy, caring, good communication skills. I won't give you any more than that. I'll let you do a few more. So if you want to pause the video here and get cracking with that.